guys! So this is my advice video for traveling and study abroad. If you're interested in my expenses, you should go watch the Money Matters video for study abroad that I posted. This is just general information and advice that I have to give you. I'm going to start off with a question that I was asked by somebody who just is now on their study abroad, and then I'm going to lead into all the advice that I could think to give you about traveling and studying abroad in Europe. Specifically in London. So the question that I got was, where can I eat and buy my groceries? Note, this is in London, okay? Cool. So a bunch of places that I can recommend to you for eating and buying groceries. Sainsbury, Tesco, and Morrison's are all grocery stores that are popular in London. They're, all over the place. You can find them everywhere. Sainsbury's my favorite. They're the grocery stores that you can go to. They all have meal deals, which I explained in my other video, but they're £3 to £5 kind of on-the-go meals with like sandwiches aside and a drink or something similar to that. Boots is like a pharmacy store, kind of similar to our CVS and Walgreens. So you can get a bunch of medications there, you can get a bunch of random items, you can also get meal deals at the pharmacy stores. So Boots I recommend as well for meal deals and snacks. Pret-a-manger, that's how it's pronounced. It looks like pret-a-manger if you're going to be like weird and American about it, but it's a French name. It's pronounced pret-a-manger. And that's like a quick service place. It's kind of similar to Panera. Like imagine like a quick serve Panera, and like I guess that's what this place is. But they serve really good food and really good smoothies, so you can always get a cheap and quick bite to eat there. That's going to taste nice and be kind of like on the go as well. Again, like I said, all of these places that I mentioned have meal deals. In the restaurants category, I ate at a lot of like non-expensive restaurants, so like naturally they cost more than, just food from the grocery store or quick serve meal deals. But the restaurants that I liked and I ate at the most are Bella Italia, Nando's, Gourmet Burger Kitchen, Pizza Express, and Ask Italian. I eat at all those places, 1, because they're delicious and amazing and I recommend them, 2, because they're really not too harsh on the wallet, and 3, because they have gluten-free options and I have a wheat allergy, so I kind of need that. But they did have a lot for me to eat there. So that's where you can eat and buy groceries by my recommendation in London. So moving on from that to a bunch of advice that I have for you. I'll try to be kind of quick because I don't want to keep you here for a half hour, but we'll see how that goes. So first thing, know your resources before you go. For me, like laundry, bedding, kitchen items, all those things were provided for me as part of my program in the center I stayed at. Depending on where you're staying or how long you're staying, any of those things might not be provided for you, and that would be an extra cost when you get there. So you have to factor that in. Just know what's going to be provided for you already and what you're going to have to spend money on, okay? Cool. Moving on, don't blow your money on drinks. And that is not exclusive to alcohol, okay? The alcohol over there, I grant you, is expensive, and you don't want to spend all of your money just going out every night on tons of alcohol, but the drinks over there are expensive too, because the soda is imported, so the soda's expensive, you don't get free refills, and the juice is expensive as well. Again, like nothing's free refills, okay, except water. Alright, so it's going to cost you a lot of money. Don't spend your money all on drinks, including alcohol. Drink water as often as possible. It's cheap and or free, and everything else like is a splurge for when you really want it or when you're really having a good time. Cool. Bring a lock. That is another important thing. You can use it on your bag, you can use it on provided lockers for you in hostels or hotels when you're out and about. Locks are really dandy to have, alright? It's really smart to have one. Keep your belongings away from other people's grasp. On that note, be very wary of pickpockets. I didn't have an issue with pickpockets my whole trip, but I take precautions against them. Really, honestly, unless you're going to Spain, and this is nothing against Spain, and I didn't even go there, but I hear from people who did go to Spain that pickpockets are horrible there, okay? London was not so bad. Really, pickpockets is kind of an opportunity thing. It happens when you leave something unzipped, when you're not paying attention, when stuff is in your back pocket, when you leave something on the back of your chair. Like, just don't give them the opportunity to steal from you, and generally they won't. So yeah, I always carried my bag in front of me. I had an arm over it. I used bags with zippers or flaps or buttons or like things like that. Also another thing is, again, if you have to put your bag on the ground for any reason, put a leg through it, like, put an arm through it. Don't use a backpack unless you have to. Don't put things in your back pockets. I don't put anything in any of my pockets, but definitely not in the back one. Also, watch out if people come up and talk to you on the street. Yeah, a lot of people are nice. Yeah, a lot of people are really helpful. But sometimes if a random stranger is approaching you just like somewhere on the street, be kind of cautious about that if they're like asking for directions or if something doesn't feel right about the conversation, because sometimes pickpockets work in groups. So one of them will be distracting you and then the other person is stealing all your stuff. So, and then even if you feel it, you turn around and there might be a third person they already passed all your stuff to and your stuff is gone. It's like magic. Except really horrible because now you lost your passport. So that sucks. So be wary of pickpockets on your ventures. Next thing, buses are cheaper than the tube. I explained this more in my Money Matters video because I got kind of sidetracked in that one, but just know it's a fact. Buses are cheaper than the tube. You will save money if you use them, but not necessarily time, just depending. Also, my advice to you really is walk as often as possible. You will discover so much more that way. You will run randomly into really fun or awesome stuff that you might want to come back to, or crazy situations, or just you'll come across the best stuff and you'll really feel like a local. You'll get to know your area, you'll get to know the people. It's a wonderful experience. So, you know what? Walk whenever you can. And exercise never hurt anybody either. Also, CityMapper is an awesome app for getting around. I think you do need Wi-Fi or data to use it, but it's super useful. You plug in where you are now and where you want to go. You just draw a straight line there and it tells you, oh, you need to take such and such bus. It'll take you this long, or such and such underground, or it'll give you all of the details and it'll get you right to your destination. It's awesome. Use CityMapper. Next thing is, speaking of phones and apps, know what you're doing about your phone service. There's a lot of different options. There's international plans you can usually buy. There's Wi-Fi. You can do a pay-as-you-go phone. There's a lot of things. Personally, for me, I did a very small international plan with AT&T. It allowed me to text unlimited, and it allowed me to make phone calls for $1 a minute. It gave me a very small amount of data. I only use data in emergencies. All other times I just relied on Wi-Fi and my unlimited texting. So that's where I was at, which is pretty good. A lot of places over there will give you Wi-Fi. So you can kind of do things like that. I think another option is switching out your SIM card in your phone. That one just kind of confused me, honestly. So, but it's an option, I guess. Just have a phone plan. You want a way to be able to contact people. Moving on from that, I have a cheat sheet over here, by the way. That's why I'm like looking over here. Planes are cheaper than trains if you're using transport. Just so you know, now you don't always get the options. Some places you need to go, you have to take a train, you don't get a choice. There's no planes that go to that place. But if you do have the option, planes are usually a lot cheaper than the train service. You will save a lot of money by taking cheap flights off of Ryanair or EasyJet than you will taking the train to any location. So that's good to know. Alright, here's a lesson learned. Know your travel style and plan accordingly, okay? So I learned my lesson. I did a trip to Paris, Amsterdam, and Brussels. I spent 3 days in Paris, 1 day in Amsterdam, 1 day in Brussels. 3 days in Paris, perfect, awesome, saw everything that I cared about seeing, it was great. 1 day in Brussels was perfect, that's all I really needed there. It was a great city, but I kind of saw everything I cared about seeing, ate a bunch of chocolate, it was a good day. 1 day in Amsterdam, absolutely not enough for me. I am very unhappy with myself that I planned it to just be one day. I'm glad I visited the city. I'm glad I saw a couple things. I'm glad I can say that I was in Amsterdam at one point, but I really could have used an extra day or two there. Now, I'm the kind of person who likes to really explore the city. I like to feel like I've lived there and I know the place really, really well. So that's my travel style. I like to get intimate with the places that I'm traveling to. Well, I might sneeze, I'm sorry. Anyway, but if you're the kind of person who's just like, I just want to say that I was in the city, or I just, want to see this one thing in the city, that's all I care about, then fine, go ahead, plan it for a day or a half a day in a city, but you have to also account for travel delays and things like that, because honestly for me, like I said, my travel style is more intimate. I like to spend more time in places, and I really didn't get that time when I planned it that way just so I could say I'd been there, which, I mean, I'm glad I went there, but again, just know what your travel style is. Know if you're a city hopper or if you really want to spend some time and get to know the place that you're in and plan accordingly. All right? Cool. Moving on, if you're worried about it at all, public transport is a complete non-issue in Europe. Like here in America, our public transport sucks. Unless you're in an absolute major city, which there's about one for every like 3 states, like I don't know, unless you're in a major city, there is like no public transport. You need a car, you need a taxi, you need whatever, like you're not gonna be going anywhere very fast. But over there, every major city has a variety of like buses, trams, an underground system, taxis. A lot of cities have bikes you can rent as well, and the cities over there are generally smaller. Like you can walk most of them usually as well. So, I mean, really, you have tons of options, tons of different pricing for that. You can always just walk to most of your destinations depending on where you go. So yeah, that's a non-issue. So if you were worried about public transport, oh, am I gonna get from point A to point B? Like, don't be. There are so many ways to get from point A to point B, you won't even know which one to take. All right, on top of that, when you're traveling around cities, I recommend that you take a city tour. There are a lot of awesome city tours that are, losing my words. There's a lot of different awesome city tours around Europe. Some of them you pay for, some of them are free. I recommend the Sandeman's New Europe tours because I did a few of those. They're technically free city tours, but it's free with a catch. It is, I mean, it's free if you want it to be free, I guess, but note that the tour guide, the only pay that they get is from you. They're not paid hourly. They work off of essentially your tips. And so you pay them what you think their tour was worth, and you understand that that's their bread and butter. But, I mean, overall, I got some awesome tours from those people, because it's people that are locals or people who are really passionate about their city. So I highly recommend it. You know, it could save you a couple bucks compared to some other tours, but take a city tour, because you see a lot of interesting things, and you learn a lot of interesting stuff that you might not learn at a museum or in a regular brochure from these people who've heard the stories and grown up there or lived in that area for a while. And you'll see a lot of places that you might want to explore more later and come back to. It gives you very good bearings of the city too, because they're usually walking tours, and they're anywhere from 1 to 3 hours with what I experienced as well. Also, if you're in London and you're taking tours of literally anything, I don't care, historic sites, city tours, I took a street art tour, use the Blue Badge guides. The Blue Badge guides are like the certified tour guides. Those tours do cost you money. They are not free. Those people are paid. They don't work for tips or anything, but they're certified for a reason because they are dang good at giving tours. So recommend that if you're in London. So definitely, like, be a tourist. Take some city tours. Not gonna hurt you, and they're pretty awesome. Let's see, next thing, student discounts. If you're a student, never be afraid to ask for a student discount. It is as simple as that. Not all places have them, but you'd be surprised how many places do and how much money you'll save. I have some more things to warn you about. Oyster cards, the money that you put on those, it's your transport cards, explained it in the other video as well. The money that you put on those can creep up on you. I definitely recommend having an Oyster card, but the money you use to pay for the tube and the buses on that card can creep up on you pretty quickly, so kind of keep track of your expenses in that sense. Also, this was an interesting thing. I have never had allergies before in my life. Like, it'll be the worst pollen season in the States, and everybody's like just dying, and I am like clear as a bird. Like, I'm clear as a bird. I'm whatever. Free, whatever. Free of allergies, I guess. I went to London, and from the minute I stepped out of the airport, I had non-stop allergies for the first month I was there. Like, kill me now, my nose is stuffed up, I feel like I am dying allergies. So I had to go to the pharmacy store, Boots, and I had to buy myself a bunch of vitamin C, and a bunch of emergency pills, and a bunch of just a bunch of allergy medication and like 1-a-day allergy relief, and I had to be on those for a month before my body finally adjusted to the new pollen and the new trees and the new air and environment, and I was finally off of all of that. But that's something to watch out for. You never really know what you're going to react to in a brand new environment like that. So especially if you already have allergies or you already know that you're sensitive to certain things, I'd be wary of that. But even if you don't, as I said, I don't have allergies, and I went there and I was dying for a month. I still enjoyed my trip, but I was on a ton of allergy meds. So just a precaution to be aware of. You might run into health issues. Also, the bikers in London are dangerous. The bikers are, I'm not talking like bikers, like motorbikes. I'm talking like bicycles. Like, people on bicycles are dangerous there, because they'll be like on the street 1 second, and then they'll decide the street's too full, and they'll jump up on the sidewalk, and they'll go meep meep, and then run you over. And like, they don't care. They don't care. Okay, so seriously, like, watch out for the bikers, because you are more likely to be hit by a biker than I think anything else in London at all. Like, the most likely bad thing that will happen to you in London is being knocked over by one of those people on their bicycles with their little bells or horns. So watch out for that. Speaking of traffic though, and being hit by stuff, the traffic is obviously on the opposite side of the road in England than from us in America. Honestly, my advice to you is really just to look both ways before crossing the street, because there are one-way streets, and then, you know, I mean, in every country there's the idiot who thinks they're on like the right side of the street or whatever, and so really, just be really careful. Look both ways. Pedestrians do not have the right of way in England like they do in the States, so you will get run over if you're crossing the street, because they don't have to stop for you there like they do here, because you're not the center of the world anymore. So seriously, just look both ways, watch out for cars, be safe out there, use the crosswalks. That is that. Oh yeah, when you're riding the escalator in London, stand to the right. They have this nice system that I think we should implement everywhere with escalators, where if you just want to be lazy and chill and stand on the escalator, that's fine, but you do it on the right side. And if you're in a hurry and you want to just get where you're going and you're using the escalator to speed up the process, you walk on the left. So don't be ignorant, don't block people's paths, stand on the right side, okay? Cool, that's great. Also, be aware of other cultural differences that arise. There's plenty of cultural differences when you're eating out at restaurants. The waiter or waitress will not split the bill for you. That never happened for us. They are more than willing for multiple people to pay, but you have to split the bill up yourself. So the waitress will come over and say, well, how much are you paying? And you'll say, oh, $14.92. And your friend will say, I'm paying $12, blah, blah, blah. You split the bill, not them. Okay, that's one cultural difference. There's a variety of others. Just be sensitive. Like, these people grew up in a different environment. It's a different place. The country has different laws. You know, just be aware that you are entering a totally different place with, you know, different cultural activities and different things that they do on a daily basis, and you need to be sensitive to that, because if you wanted to live by American customs, I don't know why you're traveling outside of America. So, okay, final note, I guess this video is getting long, but know the difference between converters and adapters, and whether you need one or the other for your devices. A hair straightener, a blow dryer, any kind of heater, like that sort of thing. I didn't risk it, I didn't bring mine, I just bought a new one when I got there, worked just fine, great. But if you are gonna bring it, not that I would risk it. You probably need a converter for that. It depends on if your thing is dual voltage or not, but even dual voltage, I would check up on that. You can Google a lot of information on converters versus adapters to decide which one you need. iPhone chargers and phone chargers in general, I think, tend to be fairly universal. You just need an adapter for that so that your charger will fit into the wall plugs because those are shaped differently. So a lot of things like already are, you don't need like a converter for it, you just need an adapter. But then there's other things you do need converters for. I would check the voltage. If you're curious, usually on the plug end of an item, it says the voltage. In here, this is an Apple product, you can't read it on my screen, but it does say the voltage on here because I read it before. It says 100 to 240 volts or 50/60 hertz. 100 or so volts is usually what we have in America, but the 240 volts is what they use over in Europe. So this is dual voltage. This will be fine as long as you have the adapter to plug it into the wall. Whereas other things, if they're around 100 to 200 volts or less, you probably need a converter for that, or just don't risk bringing it in the first place. Because what happens is their voltage is twice as high as ours, and it can burn out your device, it can cause power outages, it can cause fires, a lot of bad stuff, guys. So really just be wary, check the voltage on your objects, make sure it says that it can handle the 240 volts. If you're not sure, Google some information about it, ask a professional, but you don't always need a converter. And I've heard that sometimes converters can be unreliable as well. So make sure that you're buying a good brand of converter and one that's gotten good reviews on how it's worked for other people. I do a lot of Google reviews, if you couldn't tell. Other reviews I recommend checking out are Amazon reviews and TripAdvisor reviews, because those are just super helpful in deciding what you're going to use on your trip and what you're going to need. So I guess that's all the advice that I could come up with about traveling and studying abroad. If you have any questions, I guess I'm kind of a wealth of knowledge now, and I'm willing to share that information with you. You can just ask me questions in the comments. I'll try to get back to you on that. You can watch my Money Matters video if you're interested in expenses. And yeah, I hope that this was helpful and kind of made you aware of some things that maybe you hadn't thought about before. So, happy travels!